Council. Heather is by there. We've got Paul Orders, as you're well aware, is the Chief Executive, the new and the old Chief Executive, by the way. You've got Christine Salter, who is heading up the Finance Department. And of course, you've got Russell, who's the Cabinet Member for Finance. So really, is there any questions you would wish to ask any of the employers?
I'll speak up, use your chance, there they are. Hold on, that man over there.
Oh, this may be a bit of suicide. Christine knows who I am. But in terms of the proposals, obviously the 2.7%, is that going to affect councillors as well, or is that something for the staff group, or is it going to be...
Good question.
Because we're all in it together, aren't we, I suppose?
Good question.
Sorry, was it to me, the question?
Anyone, really?
All right, because I can speak for myself. I'm more than happy to take a 2.7 reduction. And we can...
Sorry, Heather. Obviously, this is going to be enforced on people if there's not a collective agreement. But are you going to enforce it amongst the Labour Party, or have you not got that power to do that?
We don't have the power.
We don't have that power.
But the leader, I think, is minded to recommend that that all councillors, frankly, follow and fall into line with it.
But saying that, we will be asking, once I go through the trade union meeting, at the moment that is the threat from the employer, but I'll explain to you after in a union meeting. And whether that's still going to be there, because yes, as a branch secretary, we don't like threats, but there is still a room to go back and ask the politicians to rethink not the package, because the package is the employer's package. So that may still come out of the trade union meeting after, if you want me to write to them, the leader and the finance.
I just think it shows solidarity amongst all of us who are trying to deliver frontline services for people. So I know Paul Orders did it back in New Zealand where he refused a pay increase, I think. But it would be show solidarity at least.
We don't consider it an unreasonable request.
No, absolutely not. It isn't unreasonable.
Okay, any other questions?
Ken,
Yes, ma'am.
in terms of the VS, or in relation to the VS, you say that this 4 million or whatever it is you're going to get from reducing our pay, equates to what, 194 posts? So why can't you let another 194 go this year? Because my understanding is there's been well over 1,000 a supply.
As a Labour council, no, and I feel quite passionate about this, and I'm quite happy to answer it. As a Labour councillor, I'd like to see as many people keep a wage packet as I can.
Yeah, and I think following on from the leader's point, the difficulty that we've got is that the £50 million of savings, that's the scale of those savings. It was only confirmed to us when back in July the 16th. That is not much time to put all the preparations in place to make that scale of savings. So one of the issues for us is, of course, we want to reduce the impact on services and on jobs, as well as the leader has said. So we're trying to find ways of minimising the impact as much as we can, frankly.
I understand that, Paul, right? But these proposals are for this year.
Yeah.
What happens next year?
Well, the issue...
Because I think it has an impact on how we vote, on what you say you're going to do in future years.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. And I think what we are saying, or what the Cabinet is certainly saying to me, is that we've got to work constructively with the trade unions, with staff, to look at all the options that we can to ensure that we minimise the impact on jobs, but we're clear that we're going to face similar financial pressures next year and the year after. But what we need is some time to work through the issues with you to see if we can do it in a way that minimises the impacts. Yeah?
Sorry to open my mouth again, but just shut it the first time. In terms of the numbers of staff that are going to be, like Andy said, this is not going to sort of go away. We know the Williams review is due. was due out at the end of January, has been delayed.
It's due out
Obviously,
Monday, isn't it?
sorry,
It's due out on Monday.
was it? Oh,
No, it is due out Monday
right,
next week.
Sorry, I thought it was delayed. Obviously, there's that going back to maybe less local authorities across Wales. And I think somebody was on television on the Adrian Masters Sharp End programme saying that staff numbers within Cardiff would be reduced between sort of 10,000 now down to 5,000 by 2017. Obviously, my concern is having the VS packages, which what's more important is to keep those packages available until at least that date or until we get to a local government reorganisation. So the Cabinet working and the Council working to try and safeguard those things, and I know this is only a year's package, but we've got to look at the bigger picture and the longer term plans.
Well, let me clarify what I said on Sharp End, because I did say that if you forecast forward on the basis of the indicative settlements that Welsh Government have issued so far, I would anticipate that by 2017, half of the people that currently work for the council, excluding teachers, will not be working for the council in 2017. But I did emphasise that doesn't mean to say they will be without a job. It just means that they may be working for another employer. Because what we're looking to do is to see whether we can find alternative arrangements to continue to deliver some services. And that means that we need to build partnerships both with the private sector, the third sector, or we may have to create organisations of our own that are arm's length to the council, a bit like Cardiff Buses, that we have a company that's Cardiff Bus that the council owns, but because it's arm's length, then the arrangements are different. That it means that, you know, as the leader says, our ambition is to keep as many people in a job as is practically possible. You know, it's not our intention to make people redundant. It's our intention to keep people in a job, whoever they are working for. And that's not, you know, if you look back over the last 20 years, it's not unusual for Cardiff certainly to work in partnership with other organisations to deliver services. What we need to do, though, is to make sure that we get the best possible arrangements in place that, you know, attract the best staff, and that's what we want. You know, and you know, we do understand that if you don't pay the right salaries, if you don't pay, you know, offer the best terms and conditions, then you're unlikely to attract the best staff. We want the best people working in Cardiff because we've got a job to do as the capital city. Come reorganisation, I think that for the vast majority of frontline workers, there will be little difference, to be honest. It's in the overhead that the saving will come when you start to merge authorities, that you won't need the vast overheads that we've got, both in terms of senior staff and in terms of premises costs and things like that. And that money can be reinvested and released into frontline services, which is what I think we all want.
Yep, you want to?
Well, one thing I want to be clear on is if these proposals go through, effectively what you're saying is going to be a 2.7% cut, but you agree to pay, let's say for argument's sake, the national settlement is 1% next year, you agree to pay that. So what we're looking at is a 1.7% cut. Yeah? Has any consideration been given to reversing that cut if and when things get better? Or are we voting on a permanent 1.7% cut?
I'd be living in a strange world if, when we get out of the age of austerity, trade unions don't start counting the cost that impacted upon their members and started to put forward in the first place unreasonable demands for recompense, but through negotiation we get to a reasonable position. I mean, it's bound to be anticipated, isn't it? That I mean, Am I allowed to say this? I mean, I guess there will come a time when you'll say, well, we want the money back, but we don't actually want to work 37 hours anymore. We want to be paid the same money for working 36 hours as we used to get for working 37. After 2017, I am sure that that will be an item on the agenda of lots of meetings with the trade union.
Any other ones?
Yes, Ken?
Yep.
You say that Labour's policy is trying to safeguard jobs. Is it always the lowest paid who are most affected? I'll give you an example. Last 12 months, County Hall have lost about 20, 30 cleaners of a team of about 45, 50. What you're saving by that, I don't know. The minimum. So, you're trying to safeguard jobs and you just cut 20, 30 cleaners just like that.
I don't know the detail. I do recall there being a conversation shortly after we came back into office that it was an area where there were a number of vacancies, or where the people that were currently employed could be employed elsewhere within the organisation. And as a result, what had been considered was reducing the cleaning standards within council buildings. But my understanding was that no actual person sort of was put out of a job. It was just either deleting vacant posts or transferring people that were perhaps working in County Hall to another building.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is...
But you're right, the job's lost.
The minimal you've saved is
Well,
the same.
I understand why you say that, but in the present position, and it is horrendous. I mean, I've never faced anything like as difficult a challenge as we are facing this year, and I've been a member here for nearly 30 years, and I've never faced anything as challenging as this. And just like Tesco says, every little helps. We have to look everywhere for the odd 5 grand, the odd 10 grand, simply in some areas because they've got nowhere else to go. I mean, although it sounds a lot of money that the council, has a revenue budget of about 600 million, and we turn over in total about £1 billion. The controllable budget that we've got, the bit that we can influence, is only about 250 million. And if you've got to take 50 million out of that 250 million, you can see that how challenging it is. And even then, there are certain no-go areas in terms of things like social care, children's services, because if an elderly person turns up needing a care package, or if a child needs looking after, we're not in a position where we can turn those people away. So all of a sudden, that 50 million is being targeted on something like £100 million worth of spend. And that's why in some areas we're actually taking up 50% of their spending, whether it's sports and leisure, whether it's economic development, strategic planning and highways. Those areas are getting a 50% cut in their spend. That is massive. So every little help.
And there is the old adage, isn't it? It's what I was brought up with anyway. You look after the pennies, so you can really take care of the pounds. And Russell's right. We've got to the stage now where small amounts are very important.
Well, interesting you say that, Heather. I think you need to get in touch with what actually goes on in some of these departments, because a lot of your managers do drag their feet when they're trying to sort things out. But that's just a comment. The question I want to ask is, in your report, Paul, you said there was a £7 million shortfall. Where's the other £3 million coming from then?
It is 7 million. We haven't yet decided what we're going to do about council tax, and that is the debate that we have to have. We're looking to see what else we can get from sort of making adjustments to the council's balance sheet, whether there are some reserves that can be released. But the other challenge that we've got is that at the moment, somebody mentioned that there are nearly 1,000 people applying for VS. I don't think that's not the figure I've heard, but it is well over 500, towards 700. We know that the cost on average of 500 VS packages, based on the last 3 years' example, is about £9 million. We've only got £4 million set aside for that at the moment. So we are looking to see where we could release some money from, either combination of council tax increases or adjustments to reserves. One of the biggest challenges we've had this year, and it escapes me as to why government have taken this decision in this year of all years. But in previous years, we've been allowed to use capital to pay the statutory redundancy costs, and government is saying this year we can't do that. Now, I know that the Minister is in discussions with Treasury officials to see whether we can get some flexibility around that, but that is causing us a major headache, because even if we went out and sold a building or and realised some capital, we could not use that money to pay for redundancy costs, and that just seems ridiculous in the present situation. But we're continuing to press.
And the 7 million, just worth underlining the fact that that shortfall, that follows huge discussions with directors. I'm coming into this fresh, challenging the directors to come up with additional savings, looking under every stone for additional savings that can be implemented in 14-15, and that's where we've got to. You're in a scenario where it is, as I said at the outset, there is a timing issue here in terms of getting this budget across the line for 14-15, and that's why we've got the problem over the 7 million shortfall.
Okay, I've got two more that's indicated. And the lady at the back, sorry, I don't know your names.
One, thank you for coming down, because I think everyone will agree it's good to be able to ask these questions. Regarding restructures, I think the council is quite narrow-minded in the way that we carry them out. It all seems to be about driving reducing the costs. I don't think there's much consideration in terms of thinking what we're going to be delivering in 4 or 5 years' time, how we're actually capturing those skills of the people who are leaving. Even just as simple as to think, how many social workers are we going to need in our time? We seem to be getting rid of lots of people who then potentially we're going to have to re-recruit or retrain.
It's a really important point, because we've got all these cuts taking place this financial year with more to follow. So what the Leader and the Cabinet have said to me is that we've got to look at the shape of the organisation in the future. What will we need to deliver in the next 2-3 years? What will the organisation look like? Councillor Goodway's point, if we're going to be delivering services via arm's length bodies and so on, what does that mean for the organisation and for the structure of the organisation? So you're not just reducing, you're not just reorganising the council purely about costs. We've also got a job to do. And there are opportunities, and I've discussed with Cabinet over recent weeks, and you'll be aware of this more than me. There are opportunities to do things much better and differently within services. We should be doing it. We should. And part of that is not just having a discussion with directors or management teams. It's really drawing on the know-how and capability of our staff to a much greater degree than what we've done in the past. So part of the issue about dealing with the 14-15 budget now, and then sitting down with the trade unions to discuss how we might move the organisation forward along the lines that you've outlined.
But can I just say that in response to that, I mean, you're a member here. I mean, the reason you're here today, you're a member of an organisation that crosses the entire public sector and beyond. And I don't think that the current problems facing the Welsh public sector should be put at the door of local government alone to find a solution. It's not fair that local government is being asked to pitch out and find all of the money to solve the ills of the Welsh public sector. I mean, it's important. We've got 22 local authorities that have been facing considerable challenges over a number of years, but not one local authority has ever overspent its budget. They've all balanced their budget, And last year, every one of the 22 local authorities balanced their budget, but not one of the health boards in Wales balanced their budget last year, not one. They all overspent. We try and pretend that we can do everything, and that whatever the circumstances, we will pitch up and deliver. Last year, well, even in the current year, some health boards have stopped operations because they say they haven't got the money. So when is local government going to say, if we haven't got the money, then we can't do what we are expected to do? Because otherwise, there's unrealistic expectations, and we have to manage those expectations, I'm sorry. Because otherwise, we're just going to disappear. And I think that your people are in a very influential place in terms of the entire public sector. When these discussions are being had with government between the trade unions, I think that somebody needs to stand up more for local government.
My question follows on really nicely from your question with regards to skill retention. I understand that there is a redeployment pool of people who are very, very capable and who are just presently without a post, and there are other people facing having their posts removed. Likewise, there are people who applied for voluntary severance, but where perhaps the department's appetite for deleting that post isn't great at this stage. Is there not a better way of matchmaking those who are happy to leave with those who are desperate to stay, so that the people can be released who have applied for voluntary severance but the post can't be deleted, with somebody from the redeployment pool? We've just been through job evaluation. In my simplistic way, I'm thinking these days you should be able to take a grade 6 off the peg and move them into a different position with an understanding of a transferable level of skills and knowledge and experience, etc. And I just feel that there isn't much appetite for that, and I think it could provide a solution that takes the risk away from more people losing posts who are desperate to keep them.
The commitment is there to improve the current arrangements, and if that means making more use of, get the word right, bumping arrangements, then that's what needs to be done. Absolutely. And I've seen it myself, actually, in the brief time I've been here. Absolutely.
And that agreement has been made between the unions and the HR department within the council, that we will make that easier to achieve, because it's quite difficult, isn't it, to do that matching across the council. So there is a commitment there to try to sit down and try to make it easier, more seamless, and therefore successful.
Okay, I think it's two more's indicated now. Look, there's each one popping up on no disrespect to politicians, but when they get comfy, they'll keep you here for hours. So on that basis, I've got to do my bit after, so I do understand he's going to put in his quick getaway.
Jobs covered on a temporary basis at the moment, and as potentially I'm in a position I could be back in redeployment at a future date, and I want assurance that permanent members of staff with the skill balance would have the opportunity to go for those posts that are currently filled on a temporary basis.
Okay, that was a matter of information, not a question. Somebody there put their hand up. Nobody else? Last one? One more?
I just wanted to ask,
that's sorry,
you've just sort of made a commitment that you're going to be considering bumping, you know, as a proper kind of a way of saving a huge amount of money. So when is that going to happen?
It's in place now, believe it or not.
It is.
No. The difficulty I've got is, you know, to slang off maybe senior officers of the council. Dare I do it? But there is a particular... All I'm going to say is a blockage in the system that we've got to unblock. It's there to be used, and we think it should be used in a way that it's meant to be used, not because of other reasons behind other people doing it.
So commitment is there to work with the trade unions to unblock the issue.
Okay then, I'm going to let him go now because I'm going to get excited. Thank you, everyone.
And I thank you for inviting us.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you for coming.
Okay then, colleagues.
Right, order.
This is really where it gets nitty-gritty. You know, let me just try to explain to you. First of all, I'll do some introductions. I'm Ken Daniels. I'm the branch secretary of the GMB trade union. Andy Shields is on my right. So is Paul Kenton, who is the senior steward within GMB. You've got Harris, who's the branch secretary for Unite, and you've got Jim Pates from Unite. I'm not quite sure if you're the chairperson of Unite, but yeah, we've got Jim. So welcome to them as well. Now, the first thing I can do is to try and wind you up by doing my Arthur Scargill Act and all this stuff that goes with it. I can wind you up a treat. Or I can start a rumour that'll set you off going. That's not my intention. I'm going to try and keep this cool and calm because I hate being up here when it means that I'm asking you for a cut. Not me, them. So please, if you've got any anger and frustration, take it out on them. We can only negotiate because I can tell you I'm not going to go into it. When we first started the negotiations with them, although this is still not palatable, it was a damn sight worse. So, as I say, as far as I'm concerned, the other reason why I was a bit late outside, because I'm not going to ask you on this one, as far as I'm concerned, I want that threat taken away.
Yes.
Okay, because I genuinely want you to give your views, because at the end of it, it'll mean some form of action. No, it's no good people or any other trade unions saying anything different to what I'm saying. You've all had the proposals, yes? Or if not, I'll go through them one by one. But if you all had them, or do you want me to go through them one by one? Right. Well, let's just try and flick through them then. What they're saying is, they want a reduction of hours to 36 hours a week. That's the NJC Green Book. They're also going to apply to the Red Book. They're also going to apply to Salisbury. So in other words, 36 hours. What they intend, this is going to be now from the top to the bottom. First time ever, from the chief executive down. The reason why it's shown in percentage terms, because you know, like the likes of the chief executive tell you they work very hard, and hey, who am I to say they don't? But they work, they tell me 60, 70 hours a week. So a reduction, how else can you do it by taking the 2.7 off their salaries? So that's what they're saying with the 2.7 pay contribution. They want to see cease the payment of professional fees. Well, unless it's linked to your job, I just wonder why we were paying them in the first place. If it's linked to your career progression and stuff like that, then that's still going to be there. I know there'll be maybe some questions out there about suspending the honoraria scheme, because at the moment they're coming through thick and fast. Honorariums all over the place. They're supposed to be reviewed every 3 months. Well, not in all cases is that there, but that's what they want to do. But that's only for people going forward. So I presume if you're asked to do any extra work and they're not going to pay you, I don't have to ask what you're going to tell you the employer. Okay? So on that basis, we'll have to suck it and see to see how it works out.
A lot of us have already picked up additional tasks, though, by the people that we've already
Right.
lost in the
What they've said is, where you've already got it, and bearing in mind, whether or not some of you in the room may have done it for X amount, it's supposed to be, underneath the current procedure, it's supposed to be reviewed every 3 months. But they have given a commitment that the people who've got it, right, they're not saying that it's going to be taken off you. If it's taken off you because the honoraria or what you're doing is taken away, then of course you shouldn't be paid it anyway. But
a lot of us have picked up additional work because posts have gone, that there's been no increase in pay, there's been nothing, it's just been the work is still there, I've never went with the person.
no, we understand that as trade unions, but then again now, if people are doing extra and beyond, there is a regrading process that people can apply for. Honorariums consistently all the time. There's something wrong with the system when I got people on honorariums, believe it or not, for 4 years.
I was on an honorarium.
Well, I think it's disgraceful. It's either that post at that level is needed or it's not. And we're only just finding out things now. So where them things are, but they have given a commitment if you've got it. So don't assume that if they took the duties off you tomorrow, then you're not going to get it. And if anybody then is victimised by that who's currently getting it, that they're doing the work, but they're taking it off you, let us know, we'll sort it out for you.
Yeah.
Now what they've also said is, if they get an agreement on what they're proposing, is that they'll give you this commitment, which is to protect the current Corporate Voluntary 7 scheme until the 31st of March 2015.
Didn't Russell Goodway just admit, though, that there's not enough money to cover those people who are currently now applying for VS, or did I hear him?
No. What he said was is the current cost of letting people go. Now, look, you can either, if they were to do it and do it only one way only, getting rid of the voluntary severance scheme, in all fairness to them, they don't want to give you the statutory redundancy, because if you work out the difference between statutory redundancy, okay, and the VS, is a vast difference. So on that basis, they could have come back and said we're going to stop the VS and get the savings that way, but one can't have it always, can they? They're trying their best. So what they want to do, we know they've given us an indication that they want to downsize the council next year, because even when the Libs and the Plaid were in coalition, every year you've known it, so it's no different than this lot. We've always done it under the Libs and Plaid. But they told us at that time, every time we went through budget cuts, they knocked out 300 jobs. They knocked out 150 jobs. They knocked out 400 jobs. They've already told us that the way they're trying to get it through with people leaving the organisation is they want approximately 600. Now, of course, then, what they're trying to do, and that's where the identification is 194 jobs are going to be saved. They give us a guesstimate figure, and we're going to try and keep them to that figure so they make sure they're not bullying anybody. So they give a commitment for that. They could pull it any time. It's not part of your national terms and conditions. They could issue it and take it away from you next week. They've said is they're going to protect the single status Green Book terms and conditions for overtime, night work and shift to remain, because they say this is across the whole of the council, blue and white collars I used to call them, and there will be a single status collective agreement until the 31st of March 2015. They've also said they will retain the national terms and conditions for sick pay for 2014-15. As you know, that commitment alone is costing the council over £8 million. Currently as it stands. And that's why, to protect jobs, they're desperate to try and get the sickness levels down. But I understand people were all getting old. I got a bad ticket, I'm on my tablet tea, I've got to live with it. But what I'm saying to you, we're all getting old and the rest of it. It's a case of they're trying the best on that one as well. They could have pulled that one, they'd have to give us notice, and no doubt we'd go into a ballot for it. But they give you a commitment that that's going to stay. They give you a commitment, you're quite right, I don't know what, I sit on the national things regarding the National Wage Awards. I don't know where it's going to end up. I think it's odds on, it's going to be 1%. So technically you'll have that. And I know it's no consolation for the people who are at the top of their incremental grades. But they're also still honouring the incremental grades as well. So for the people who've got room to move up, will not then technically be having a 2.7 pay cut. They've guaranteed to undertake a review of the corporate voluntary 7 scheme to implement from 2015, because, like I said, they give you commitment and then they're going to look at it again, because next year we've also got worse problems. In between that, though, and I must make it plain and clear, besides the vote on this, you may have other votes coming on, because you've heard Russell say about alternative methods of delivery. Now, that's going to be a separate battle, and the difficulty I've got is then, it won't affect all of you. It may affect somebody over there and somebody over there, but be rest assured, once again, as GMB members and Unite members, that whatever they're proposing, you have to say on it.
Yes.
So, and some people have got to look at it logically, decide this or that. And look, I could say to you, I think we should start taking photographs of the famous 4 here, rattle it, and burn the effigies. Is that going to get us anywhere?
No.
If it did, I'd do it. There is no ifs, no buts, and they know I will do it. But you are the union members. So that's the commitment they've got. And quite clearly, which is right, is that you get accused of this, that, and the other. They said if it's not accepted, because if one trade union doesn't accept it, there is no collective agreement. It'd be interesting to see, because if the majority of vote come back within GMB, because we're the biggest union, they may very well decide, well, hey, we'll take that on board, and they'll have a battle with the other 2 unions. Nobody wants a split. I'm hoping the way you vote is absolutely totally up to you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, is what I could whip you up to say, let's take them on, let's go out on strike. Yes, and I will lose a day's pay. I'll lose a week's pay. We can all ill afford it. But if they intend keeping that threat on, then we'll have to reconsider our stance, because I don't like being threatened. I've warned them out there, until I meet you lot, the members, then as far as I'm concerned, that needs to be taken away. And they need to explain to you that they may still use that option, but at least the threat is off the table when you actually vote for what they're proposing. GMB will be conducting, and Alice can speak later on regarding Unite's ballot, but we've said from day one that any proposals put forward by the employers, it'll be done by a full postal vote. So on that basis, all of you, that's why we're trying to give you an inkling, because we always get people after the event to say, well, I never received the ballot paper. You won't get one if you change your address and you haven't told us, because I'm not psychic. And I haven't got a crystal ball, because if I did, I'd win the lottery on Saturday. So please, if you change your address, let us know by that date so I can get a ballot paper to you. As I said earlier on, I'm coming to the end now in a minute, then it'll be your chance to tell me what you want me to do. The proposals, as I said, affects all the staff across the council except the teachers. Really, it is down to you. Whatever questions you want me to ask or throw back to them, I've already got 3 that I'll put to you that I was just thinking when I was stood up here. I am standing up, by the way, I was sitting down. That I will ask them to use their reserves. They're not going to use all of them, because you can only use the one off. I'm going to ask them, like I said, for the councillors to take a pay cut equivalent to ours. Let's flush them out. If you heard the leader say that she's more than willing to do that, collectively within groups, whatever political persuasion this council is, it's them and their conscience. And I will try and name and shame for people who are not prepared to do it. And certainly to take away the tax, the tax. That's another thing I've got on my, and certainly, I'm a ratepayer at Cardiff, and I don't like saying this either, and no doubt I'll be crucified in the press. To me, to save a lot more jobs and what have you, is to put the council tax up by the maximum. That's going to be a political decision, because if they want suggestions of us as trade unions, well, there we are, you know what politics are, but unfortunately, we work for this council. So that's what I'm going to ask, and anything else you want me to do on your behalf. But let me make it plain and clear that if we don't get a no vote or what have you, and they're still intent on imposing it, there's only one avenue that I've got left, and that is strike action. I have got no other avenue whatsoever. I'll deal behind the scenes, up front, I'll use the threats, I'll even use bad language. I'll do my best. But at the end of the day, please, people say it to me, well, you're the union. No, I'm not. I'm just stood up here explaining to you about bad news. And basically, that's where we are. So I'm open to any questions from anybody. Yes, Steve?
In terms of what you've just said, I guess that's from a local GMB perspective. What's our national branch views on the proposals that are being put forward?
When you say national?
Yeah, GMB national. Is that, because obviously most councils are going to be in a similar position, aren't they? So
yes, you've seen what Rhonda Curran-Taff, not prepared it, but don't forget Rhonda Curran-Taff, and I'm up here slang off sister unions in them places. They impose things. In reality, though, if I went to a national stance, and I've got to be careful because I can get discipline from my own union. If they said, don't discuss anything with you, I'd have to tell them, it's all right for them to tell me nationally when it doesn't affect me. But locally it does. So I'm always a firm believer, but in all fairness, to my regional office and to the other ones, they would never put that threat onto me anyway by saying, well, our national stances, don't touch anything with a ballot. Because if you genuinely tell me, you don't want a ballot, you want me to throw it out, I'll take it back. I haven't got an issue with that. But then you've got to be prepared then to do something. If the appetite was there, don't you think I'd love to have you there when, even going back, I'll show my age with the red rumble days and stuff like that? we are where we are, unfortunately, but I understand what you're saying, Steve.
In terms of like the hardship funds that unions have across the board, what are the unions going to do for those people? Because obviously the living wage people they're not going to be affected, but there could be people live to their need, what they earn, yeah? So there's going to be people who may be single parents or living alone with bills and they're right up to the maximum. Is there going to be any adjustments to like the hardship funds that GMB provide?
It all depends what you mean. I got branch funds, like I said, it's all up, and I think I've got them up to 58,000 or something like that. The difficulty got is, within the GMB, and I can speak for you, Mike, there is no such thing as a hardship fund. We can try and listen locally, but like I said, it all depends, because people are going to come forward with things like that. And when Unison say they got the hardship fund, let me try and explain it to you. If I was sat over there, I'd be an hardship and all, wouldn't I? No, we know there are genuine people, and I accept what you're saying, Steve. If there was a GMB member that needed a bit of a help and assistance, then we can look at it as a branch, but I haven't got infinite funds. I wouldn't be able to fund this, that and the other. So if somebody needed help to get them over, then I'm more than, well, I've got to clear it with my branch first, willing to use them funds to try and help anybody. Anything else?
Ken, what about the AD posts? We've now got the directors that are getting paid a huge amount of money. What's happening with the AD posts? If we're looking to save money, are they going to be recruited?
It's gone quiet on them, hasn't it?
Well, hopefully it's gone quiet, because in all fairness to Harris from Unite and ourselves, we've been putting pressure on not to fill the assistant director post. Now I think it's finally got through to them at last, because currently, as far as I know, they're in abeyance and they're not going to be, they haven't told us they're going to go for re-advert. But I'll also tell you, as once again you've heard the dire position going the way forward again for 15-16. We did nag them, and in all fairness to Unison as well, we had a go at them regarding these 12 directors at the cost of an extra 1,600,000. We've had a go at them, we lost the battle. Because although people once again were coming to us and annoyed, and I understand that, at the time we knew we were heading for austere times, they still went ahead and done it. But let's put it this way, the war is not lost, because we're going to ask, unfortunately, because if we're going into similar things 15-16, we're going to have to rationalise departments. We won't be able to afford 12 separate sections.
Russell's already mentioned that if the councils are combined, there's going to be a lower tier. So why don't they start working on all that practice now? So, do you know what I mean? Start to merge.
Well, because at the moment that's really a big cog over there.
Yeah,
It got no control over it. I understand what you're saying. And what he's trying to say to you is they need to balance the books this year, see? And let me tell you, dealing with that like it is, and unless it's done constructively, there's going to be massive redundancies right across all of Wales. Now, I don't think, I'm not speaking for them over in Wag, but I'm sure they don't want that. It's got to be organised and structured, and I can't see that taking place and finishing in about 3 years. That's my own personal view. Amanda, you want to come in?
I just wanted to make a rhetorical question. Why are these directors now engaging consultants when we were sold the engagement of these directors to replace the budget we were having for consultants?
Which we didn't have in the book.
Really, and this is what I say, if I'll answer any question, no, I'm doing a management job, and I should have asked them, not me. But the reason, as I understand it, if I say something, it frightens people. If they're looking at whether it's leisure centres or what have you, or St David's Hall, New Theatre, or anything in the council, they're going to come forward with proposals. Now, on that basis, the chief officers wouldn't know. Now, I know through our union links, and I'm sure you're well aware, Amanda, is that where they tried to privatise and when they've done leisure centres, there is a specific route that you've got to go down. And it's whether or not it's going to be viable and stuff like that. So my understanding is they're only using people short term to get alternatives into the council, because, as he keeps telling me, let's just take leisure centres, and I'm not picking on them, and I haven't heard anything, so there's been no official discussions on it. But if you come forward with that, it goes like to Cardiff Bus, and people got their jobs, all it means, because of budget cuts, that they're going to close them, well, what are you going to do? So on that basis, I understand what you're saying, Amanda, you're 100% right. We're keeping an eye on things as much as we can, right? Because yes, once we get to find out, no fairness to Harris and Unite, we work very, very closely. To say the least, we're attacking them every time. Why do you need this? We're questioning. Unlike before, because there was a character in charge that just used consultants willy-nilly, cost us millions. Now these are unidentifiable savings. We've also, when we've seen stuff when we went through job evaluation, was another one. Please don't go back on that because it's dead and buried now. I don't want to dig up the dinosaurs. But on that one, the stuff that was going on here was just incredible to say the least. Now they are what I call unquantifiable savings. And there's still a lot of things that are mentioned behind the scenes to sort out because yeah, I can't put that forward as a proposal that saves X amount, because it should never be happening anyway. But I do take your point, Amanda, and like I said, be rest assured. So I would imagine that's what they're referring to. Yep. I'll take the gentleman, I'll come to you.
Yeah, just
I'll take your own questions, don't
the sort of, the big threat, apart from getting rid of VS, if we vote against these proposals, is that the council's going to implement a section 188 notice, sack us all and re-employ us on whatever terms and conditions they like, and all bets are off, they can change the sick pay, this is the threat, isn't it, that they're making. But it says in the cabinet report, which is on the website, that if they do that, there's a risk of legal challenge through employment tribunal claims for unfair dismissal, breach of contract, and unlawful deduction of wages. So my question to the union colleagues would be, have we taken legal advice in terms of what the challenges could be, and can they legally do it? I know it's been done in RCT, but that seems to me to be very clear that there's a severe risk if the council did try and impose that on us, they could be challenged legally.
Ultimately they can, yes, in one way or the other. But if it's done properly, then no, you can't. Because if that was the case, I'm sure my colleagues in RCT would have done that. Our sister colleagues up there in branch secretaries and Unison, Unite and ourselves would have taken them to court. I think on that one, where it can be done, unlawful breach, yeah, it was the same with job evaluation. If you don't sign it, could they have done it? Would they have done it? I think they would have. If it's anything unlawful, then of course we will challenge and sue them, but I won't know that because it all depends what process they're going to use. If they mess it up, we'll sue them. Absolutely no doubt whatsoever with it. But that's why, fairness in one way, hopefully they'll listen to me and the anger that's coming back from today that threat needs to be withdrawn. Yeah. And then we'll have to wait and see what the result is, and then we'll take it from there, because no doubt we'll have more meetings like this.